Are you sexually satisfied? Don't worry, this is a rhetorical question, but it is something to think about. Can you even answer this question? How much satisfaction is enough to conclude that you are indeed sexually satisfied? What even is sexual satisfaction? Well, sexual satisfaction has generally been defined in terms of the positive effect. Quote, the degree to which an individual is satisfied or happy with the sexual aspect of one's relationship, end quote. And, quote, an effective response arising from one's subjective evaluation of the positive and negative dimensions associated with one's sexual relationship, end quote. Others have defined sexual satisfaction more directly in terms of individual expectations within the sexual domain, including the degree to which a person's sexual activity meets one's expectation. Sexual satisfaction is often measured by researchers by orgasm or by asking someone what they thought of a relationship physically and emotionally. However, by determining sexual satisfaction in these ways, many negative consequences can occur. Mainly, this way of determining helped conclude that group differences in sexual outcomes are interpreted as natural. These social comparisons between race, gender, and sexual orientation are considered central to perceptions of justice and satisfaction, in part because they affect what a person feels they deserve or are entitled to receive. This discrepancy and gap in sexual experience is known as intimate justice. Intimate justice focuses our attention on how social and political inequities impact intimate experiences, affecting how individuals imagine, behave, and evaluate their intimate lives. Basically, intimate justice says that our race, gender, and sexual orientation has a direct effect on how much sexual satisfaction we seek and feel we deserve. Okay, so what? Why should we care about the concept of intimate justice? Well, it can actually be quite dangerous to normalize the discrepancies in sexual expectations of different social groups. In her study of sexual satisfaction in a sample of young adults, McClellan used a modified version of Cantrell's ladder in which participants were asked to define what less and highly sexually satisfied meant to them. Female participants described the low end of the scale in extremely negative terms, using terms like depressed, emotionally sad, pain, and degradation, while the more common descriptions used by men addressed issues such as loneliness, having an unattractive sexual partner, and insufficient sexual stimulation. This data revealed that men and women imagined a very different low end of the sexual satisfaction scale. When a person decides that something is good enough, he or she is establishing boundaries for themselves and for others. These boundaries indicate where demands will be made, in essence stating, below this threshold is not enough and I will demand more. Above this threshold is enough. If these thresholds are dramatically different, demands are also dramatically not equivalent. These discrepancies are apparent for all ages and societies, including in our very own college environment. In college, there is a very strong sexual stigma around how much sex people should have. In the hookup culture that has been developed for young people, particularly college students, there's this idea that people are hooking up all the time with numerous partners. However, in a 2005 study of 4 universities conducted by Scully, Katz, Gascoigne, and Hulk, they found that 80% of college students reported having no more than one sexual partner in the previous year. Yet they believed only 22% of their peers had similar experiences. This data highlights that students often overestimate the frequency and level of their peers' sexual experiences. But even though people believe that there's more sex going on than there really is, there is still a gap in the amount of sexual satisfaction and pleasure that different genders feel. For example, heterosexual women receive a lack of intimate justice because they are the least likely to orgasm than people of other genders and sexual orientations, but they often believe that this is a normal phenomenon and that they shouldn't expect orgasm. Paula England, in her study Understanding Hookup Culture, found that in heterosexual interactions on college campuses, women orgasm 11% of the time and men orgasm 31% of the time in the first hookup with a partner. She also found that men initiate the sexual activity 54.2% of the time, while women initiate 16.8% of the time. This idea of the man being the initiator and the woman being the receptor of sexual attention may indicate the amount of sexual satisfaction that men and women believe that they deserve. Men believe that they deserve more, so they are actively trying at parties to find a sexual partner, while on the other hand, women are traditionally taught to be more passive, and they therefore may believe that they shouldn't be actively searching for sex. This idea is also reinforced by the orgasm gap between the two genders. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people also contend with social stigmas related to their sexuality and sexual behaviors and are not given the same sexual rights in the political domain as heterosexuals. In a study conducted by Susan R. Rankin in 2005 regarding campus climates for sexual minorities, she found that of the LGBT students she surveyed, 20% of the respondents feared for their physical safety because of their sexual orientation or gender identity, and 51% concealed their sexual orientation or gender identity to avoid intimidation. In addition, respondents in the study felt that LGBT people were likely to be harassed on campus. These statistics make it very clear that LGBT students are deemed socially inferior to other students, and this can make them less likely to actively search for sexual partners, since they are afraid of potential physical and emotional harm and abuse. This can have a drastic effect on sexual satisfaction because LGBT students are afraid to make their relationships and sexual attractions public, and therefore are more restricted in their sexual activity. Intimate justice is something that needs to be recognized and talked about. Everyone deserves to have high sexual expectations and experiences. However, discrepancies in our sexual expectations are ingrained in our societal system. This is the climate we are living in, and we are accepting these discrepancies and deeming them as normal. This is not necessarily our fault. It is not something we are completely educated on, and social norms have led us down this path. However, it is important for us to recognize that not one gender, race, or sexual orientation is more deserving or entitled to more sexual satisfaction than another. So now, I will ask you again, are you sexually satisfied? Not so sure now.